Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to News Dose. And Microsoft, they seemingly just shut down one of the most talked about narratives since the Activision Blizzard acquisition. The idea that Call of Duty will fail because of the inclusion of Xbox Game Pass. And not only did they prove everybody wrong, but they did so with flying colors. So far, this is looking pretty impressive, and we're going to get into all of that today. And then also, Nintendo, they just revealed yet another surprise that nobody at all was expecting. Again, not the Switch successor. I keep telling you all, remain cautious with those rumors out there that some supposed leakers like to peddle on a weekly basis. We're not going to get into all of that today, but what we will get into is a fun Nintendo announcement. Let's just go and get right into things, though, starting off with Metal Gear Solid. Now, this is a series that I absolutely love, and Konami just posted an update and revealed that it crossed a major milestone. The Metal Gear Solid franchise has now surpassed 62 million units worldwide, which is very, very impressive. You know, there's not a lot of franchises out there that can say that they've done the same thing, and I think this also explains why Konami finally decided that, they kind of need to do more with this series. It's a very popular franchise, to say the least, and even though there are concerns about a brand new installment without Kojima, Kojima was just so ingrained in the Metal Gear's DNA, but Konami has at least learned that they can still do remasters and remakes of those older games. Of course, they launched the Metal Gear Solid Volume 1 collection last year, and we still have Volume 2 and Metal Gear Solid Delta on the way. And I'm really hoping that Delta proves to be a big-time success for Konami, because if it does, then they could start to look at other possible remakes as well, kind of similar to how Capcom has approached the Resident Evil franchise. So I think this is great news for Metal Gear Solid fans like myself, and it seems like we have a lot to look forward to from this point forward. Now, speaking of older games, Croc, Legends of Gobbos HD got a new gameplay trailer here recently, and we talked about this the other day. I think it looks pretty good for an old PS1 remaster, and it does have modern controls, which, I think that alone will immediately make this game just that much better. I mean, I know a lot of people really enjoyed the original game. It was a big-time seller back in the day with 3 million copies sold worldwide, but it was an early 3D platformer, and, controls have gone a long way since then. So I'm pretty excited to play this new version of Croc, and now I'm also happy to say that this includes a physical release as well. They partnered up with Rocket Games and are now taking open pre-orders from October 31st to December 10th. Now, this is only for the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation 5. Unfortunately, there's no Xbox version as of this time, but if you are interested, there are 2 different editions. You can either get the standard edition for $40 or you can go with the $130 collector's edition, which includes a physical copy, a double-sided poster, a soundtrack, a keychain, a sticker sheet, and then lastly, a pretty nice-looking figurine. I mean, if you hold a lot of nostalgia for the original Croc game, maybe it was one of your favorite childhood games, then that collector's edition might be enticing. I do like the figurine myself, but I'm just really happy to see a physical edition for Croc. I think I might actually pick up a standard edition myself. Now, we also got a reveal for November's PlayStation Plus games, and this is exactly what I want to see from them. This month includes Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged, Ghostwire Tokyo, which is interesting, given that is a Microsoft-owned game now. They continue to support PlayStation Plus. But then, November's highlight is Death Note Killer Within. Now, the reason I said that this is exactly what I want to see from Sony is because Death Note is a day one release. I keep saying that they need to have more of these day one releases, and here we're going to get that in the month of November. And I think this game is interesting enough to at least try and download. I mean, its description says Death Note Killer Within is an online social deduction game for up to 10 players. Players be split into 2 teams with different objectives. To win the game, players need to figure out each other's identities and either eliminate L, who threatens Kira's power, or seize the Death Note. So, basically this sounds like an Among Us type of game, but with a flavor of the popular anime Death Note. I mean, again, I think it sounds interesting enough to at least try out, and I think this is the perfect match for a subscription like PlayStation Plus. This is a multiplayer focused game, and I don't really know how well it would sell on its own, but with its PlayStation Plus inclusion, this should immediately inject a big community into it, and if it proves to be good, then who knows? This could be a surprise hit when it releases on November 5th. So go ahead and mark your calendar and check it out when it releases into PlayStation Plus and on PC. Okay, so let's go and talk about Xbox, because one of the biggest narratives that we've seen since Microsoft first announced their intent to acquire Activision Blizzard is that Xbox Game Pass will stifle Call of Duty's success. The assumption that a lot of people seem to have is that it's too big of a franchise, and that it's just far too popular to include into something like Xbox Game Pass day one, because it already sells extremely well without the need of something like Game Pass. So without a doubt, there's been some major questions with its inclusion, and to some extent, I think that's understandable. We've honestly never seen something like this before for a game subscription service. It's unheard of to see a game of this caliber launch into a subscription service day one. I mean, we talked about Death Note, but that is nothing compared to a game like Call of Duty. And, there is a gamble involved with a move like this, because what needs to happen here is that Call of Duty not only needs to continue to sell well across all platforms, but it also needs to boost Game Pass subscription numbers in order to make up for lost sales on Xbox consoles. As we know, Game Pass has allegedly plateaued these past few years. So in that way, there's a lot riding on Call of Duty. Xbox's gamble is that Call of Duty is the medicine for Game Pass and that it will propel it to the next level. And well, apparently, they actually pulled it off, or at least early on. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella just revealed that last week's launch of Black Ops 6 was the biggest Call of Duty release ever, and that is really saying something right there. But yes, it set a record for day one players as well as Game Pass subscriber adds on launch day. Unit sales on PlayStation and Steam were also up over 60% year over year. I mean, this really could not have gone any better for them, or again, at least early on. This is exactly what they were hoping to get out of the Call of Duty series. Not only is Call of Duty selling more on PlayStation and PC this year, I assume a lot of that's because it is a higher quality game than what we got from Modern Warfare 3, but the fact that Game Pass just had a record-breaking day for its growth, that's what they were hoping for. Call of Duty is a $70 game, and they're going to make a lot of money from that option alone. But there's other benefits that comes from Game Pass as well. Hypothetically, if they can lock somebody into Game Pass Ultimate for a long period of time, then they're going to make even more money in the long run. And plus, with 30+ million Game Pass subscribers, and possibly even more now, that means more people than ever are currently playing Call of Duty, which is huge for a series like this because it includes a lot of microtransactions. In fact, Activision announced that Black Ops 6 was the biggest 3-day opening weekend for the series in terms of total players, hours played, and also for total matches. I mean, that's the power of something like Game Pass, as it brings in just this massive wave of gamers that might not have purchased it otherwise. Yes, Call of Duty is a popular series, but now it's even more popular thanks to the inclusion of something like Game Pass. So I'm sure Microsoft is looking at this and they are just licking their chops over this, that they have to be thrilled by these early results. This is big for Call of Duty, it's big for Microsoft, and it's huge for Game Pass. I mean, we still need to see how well they can sustain subscribers over time. That's also important. That's going to be its next test. But so far, it seems like this early experiment for day one Call of Duty games is definitely paying off. I know there's a lot of people that continues to speculate if they'll continue to do it for next year's Call of Duty, but right now it's passing with flying colors, and that means that next Call of Duty will most likely be a day one release as well if this continues. And if they stick with annual Call of Duty releases, which I believe they will, there's just too much money on the table for them not to do that. I'm not saying that's the right choice for quality. I'd prefer it to be biannually, but if they stick with annual releases, as I expect, there will be certain players that will basically be locking into the Game Pass ecosystem year-round and year-out every single year. And that also feeds their other Game Pass games to some extent. Games like Avowed will suddenly have even more players to maybe reach out to as more eyes will be on them. But yeah, big congrats to Xbox and Activision. A lot of people didn't necessarily believe that this would work, but so far, they have proved everybody wrong. Now, one last thing before we go. Nintendo announced another shocker that nobody was expecting. Now, a few weeks back, they announced Alarmo, which, okay, whatever. But now, they've also announced a new music application for phones. You can get this on iOS and Android devices, and you can definitely tell that they're making use of their music, which, I mean, admittedly, they own some of the most iconic music of all time. This is not a bad idea at all. But for consumers, what you need to know here is that this does require a Switch Online subscription. I know a lot of people wanted Nintendo to put their music on Spotify, which you can get for free, but instead they're making use of their own music app to increase the value of Switch Online subscriptions. I mean, Switch Online is only $20 a year, so it's already by far the most affordable game subscription as is. And this, really just makes it that much better. I mean, I don't know how many people will go out and purchase Switch Online specifically for this alone, but this is made especially for Nintendo fans, and it just kind of sweetens the deal for Switch Online just a little bit more. And also, I'll kind of add this. The way they're doing this, it allows Nintendo to be more creative in how they push their music out to fans. Right now, it includes more than 65 hours of songs, which, that's pretty impressive. But they did note that more will come over time. And then to make it better, it does have certain features that you can't get on other apps. So as one such example, they have a feature where you can hide spoilers. So maybe you don't want to hear a song that you've yet to hear in a game. Maybe it's for a boss fight or for something like that. And what you can do is that you can just simply toggle that option on or off, and there you go. Now, you can also extend songs. Maybe you like a specific song, you want to hear it for an hour straight. You can do something like that. And it just kind of seems like a well-thought-out music app. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily anything earth-shattering per se, but I like what they're doing here. I am the type of person that occasionally listens to music from games. And, I mean, like I said before, Nintendo has a ton of great songs. The Zelda series, beautiful. I love the Pikmin stuff. Mario, some of the most iconic music that you'll ever hear. So, this type of app is made for somebody like myself. So if this is something you'd be interested in, it is out today. Go check it out if you want. But let me know what you all think about this. Do you like this idea or not? Anyways, though, that's going to be it with this episode. But until next time, make sure to hit that subscribe button and happy Halloween. Peace out.